So my name is Orla Burke and I'm the Community Climate Action Officer with Cork City Council. Next slide there. So we're currently coming to the end of the first 18 months of the Community Climate Action Programme in Cork City, which has seen €860,000 be given to community groups around Cork City. Just by way of background, the Community Climate Action Programme and this particular programme, the Building Low Carbon Communities, came about through the climate conversations held by the Department of Climate, Energy and the Environment. These come up on, these have been done yearly, I think, since 2022. And I suppose what's happened over the last few years is people have said, well, communities need to act for climate. We know this is where these things need to happen. And then communities have come back through the climate conversations to central government and said, well, we need money to do that. So that's how these projects and this funding came about. Next slide there, please. So I just want to kind of highlight how the fund is broken down. All of this is decided at central government level. As such, we as a local authority support groups, we have the contacts in the community to do this kind of work. So so while sometimes you look at these things and you go, oh, why is it like this? Essentially, it's because it was designed by central government based on the climate conversations that took place over the last number of years. So if you look at this, you'll see that actually the small projects, which is up to €20,000, there's only 10% of the fund is allocated to that. So that's about 86,000 in total. This fund in itself, this programme in itself, is aimed towards medium to large size projects. So these are the impactful projects. It's what communities ask for and it's what communities have been given. So this is anything between 20 to 50,000 and 50 to 100,000 for the large projects. And you can see that that's about 90% of the 860,000. So the projects are accessed under 6 topics or 6 headlines. And in the fund, in the application, we ask you to speak to these. This is a really difficult place for a lot of communities because every project is different. Every fund they apply for is different. They have to model themselves around this one. I suppose we're trying our best to help you to get across what you need to tell us as much as possible. So if you look at these, it does give a spread for different kinds of projects. So for example, relevance and impact. You're going to be able to demonstrate this quite easily through, energy projects. We know solar. We know, when we insulate buildings, that reduces down our energy use and reduces down our carbon. But I'll just draw your attention to the second point, which is innovation and scalability. This is those places where you can shine as a project. So you can show people, oh, we're doing this innovative project around saving, saving food waste or composting, or maybe, installing a different kind of way of cleaning and taking care of the environment. Obviously, value for money is there. So, this is where your work and your research comes in. Is this the right thing at the right time? And have you looked around for suppliers that are of good value? Achievability. So again, a lot of this will come down to, have you done this kind of thing before, and is it achievable in the time scale that you have? Partnership approach. I'll just point out the 2 items here. So there's innovation and scalability and partnership approach. These are starred items. You don't have to get a minimum pass rate on these. With these 2, this means this is an opportunity for you to shine as a group without a minimum pass. So for example, if you work with other groups in your community, for example, if you're a GA club and a lot of the local community come in and use your facilities, that shows that way that you work with others, that others benefit from the services that you provide or the building that you provide. Governance arrangements, again, they're all small amounts, these achievability, partnership approach and governance, but it does, and you do need to get a minimum requirement on that, which would be things like, do you hold AGMs? Do you have a board? Do you have a committee? Do you have a set of rules for how you operate? That kind of thing. So that's what we'll be looking for in that. Next slide. So the Community Climate Action Fund comes under 5 themes. Community energy is the standard one. If you have gone to our website and you've looked at it, you'll see things like solar panels or, windows and doors, insulation, that kind of thing. It's very impactful. We can really see it. And I think it's an easier one to see the tangible items, but there's also other themes that you can work on. So travel is the next theme. So these are anything that facilitate active or sustainable travel. We've seen a lot of things like bike racks installed, drying rooms, things like that are a push or pull aspect to helping people get to your organisation, for example. Food and waste is things around composting and community gardens. So this is that place where we look to reduce food waste, increase access to food in communities, say with the establishment or increasing the capacity of a community garden in the city, or composting itself. So that those kind of things come under that theme. Shopping and recycling. We've actually moved on from the name of this theme. A lot of the time we call this circular. So a circular economy actions. So these might be things that reduce your overall consumption, the need for consumption, like repair cafes, equipment for repair cafes, promoting things, or even the use of materials that have been recycled. Like, so some people have, one group in particular has used an off-the-shelf green wall piece of equipment, which has actually come from recycled materials itself. So this is anything that reduces down your impact and your kind of consumption of new materials. So local environment is, it's probably like one of the most catch-all ones, and it would probably be where biodiversity sits under. And another really important aspect of this fund is access to nature, which is really important in an urban environment like Cork City. So under this, we would see again, the community gardens fall under this. Composting comes under this because composting is one of the kind of it supports soil and life and microorganisms, so that actually comes under that. I would say things like deep paving, green walls. We've had this is actually the biggest theme that we've had applications under in the last round of the funding. So next slide, please. So what kinds of projects were funded in 2024, 2025? So again, as you see, local environment is the largest one there, community energy next, and then travel, food, and shopping and recycling. I'll show you a few other things that were funded as well in the next few slides. So I'm just going to cover 3 small projects that were covered in the funding. So this is the Railway Park Community Group. They applied for funding to install a learn to cycle track in Cork City. So it was the first of its kind in Cork City. The project was community led and community designed, and Cork City Council staff supported this project and the implementation of this project. However, it was the group itself that had the vision for its own space, and they led and they drove the project. Partway through the project, funding came available from another source of funding, central government funding called LawPro, and we were able to install 4 large rain gardens with the extra lift that gave us. I have a link there, but we could come back to that later, which just shows the story of the project and why the group wanted to do this. We can come back to that later. So if you get on to the next slide there. This is a small project again. This is Blackpool Community Centre. They installed a set of internal doors. A lot of these, sometimes we think everything has to be big and massive, but every action matters. And even though even getting a project like this done can actually be really challenging because it's very difficult to get people to quote for you for projects. The Blackpool Community Centre has a big, large door at the front of the building. And when it's very, very cold, they're torn between needing to close that door over, which makes the place look uninviting and closed, or between leaving it open and losing a huge amount of heat through the door. So they applied to do this very modest project, which is to install these sealed insulated doors at the front of the building just inside, which will have a massive impact to make the place much warmer, lose a lot less heat, but also make it more welcoming as a space, because people won't be going home and ringing up and saying, I saw the doors closed. Are you closed today? What's going on? So again, a small project that has a big impact. Next slide there. This is a really interesting story of this project here. So what we do with the projects is it's very difficult to get quotes. However, at certain levels, you do need to at least seek 3 quotes in most cases. So for a project of this scale, the group needed to seek 3 quotes. They had 1 quote going into their application. And after they were approved, I worked with them and they went off and got a second and a third quote. And one of them came back really, really reasonable. So it went down from being 40,000 for their LED upgrades to being 28,000, which freed up 12,000 of their funding. They also were a little bit lost about what to do, and what they wanted to plant trees on their large site, and they just didn't know what to do. So I knew Maria in Green Spaces for Health had been helping and supporting nurseries around the city, tree nurseries in various places. So when St. Vincent's went looking for trees, they were able to connect through our projects, through the sessions that we hold where they get to meet, and they were able to then go off and work together. One very cold morning in February this year, they and a business from the city, Revolution, got in and planted 120 trees. That saved them quite a lot of money as well. They had budgeted for about 10,000, which would have been mature trees. These were more saplings. And when they made these savings by working with each other and then also by doing better procurement, that also meant that we had freed up 22,000, and that we were able to use that for another energy project within the St. Vincent's properties. So next slide there. So I just want to cover what kind of projects have been funded. So green walls have been funded. So I'm just going to give you a brief tour of these because these just might give you a flavour of what things have been funded in the past that you might not necessarily see if you're looking through our booklet that's on the webpage. So green walls, this is actually from a separate project, not one of ours, because I don't have pictures of that yet. And this is a project that the City Library did in their outdoor space just off Grand Parade. As you can see, they've fruit and pollinators involved in this one. Next slide there. So we funded orchards and microforestry. This is a summer site here of Waterloo, and this is a very cold December in last year up on the site when the community were out planting those trees themselves that they had purchased through the fund. They used the funding to plant apple trees and oak trees and others, and the whole theme behind this one was food for us, food for nature, which is really nice. Next slide there. So we can fund enabling works. It can't be a massive percentage of the fund. It can be, but it can be a reasonable amount, say, if a project did need to happen. So this could be the clearance of a site. This could be shoring up of a terrace. This could be moving of something in order to facilitate the work that has to be done. So a certain amount of construction work could be done with that. Again, purchase of planting mediums, seeds, equipment, planters, all of those can be covered under the fund and have been covered. And then the installation of bat, bird and insect residences, those kind of things that facilitate, nature to repopulate areas. Next slide there. And another very interesting one that was funded was depaving for biodiversity. So this was the removing of surfaces so that they could become permeable, and that then also they could be planted for biodiversity. Next slide there. I think this is the last one. So upscaling of community composting. So here's the site in the Glen Resource Centre, and they installed a ride-on composter on their site. So that was another really impactful project. Next slide. Oh, last one, which is creating a dye garden. This was done by Newbury House. There's actually a video of this up on our Instagram for Cork City Council. This was a micro project within a larger project, and what this allowed is they actually built the dye garden themselves, and they used it in their art centre to create paint. There's a double benefit to this in that a lot of the plants that are used for a dye garden are actually pollinators as well. So it has a double benefit. Next slide. So that's the end of my slides there. Again, do get in touch. And I'll answer any of your questions now as well.